2 weeks had passed since the humans left. The galaxy was beginning to understand what that meant. The first hospital ran out of medicine on day 9. It was a simple antibiotic, the kind doctors used for common infections. The hospital had ordered more from their usual supplier, but the supplier said they couldn't get any. "Why not?" the hospital administrator demanded. "The formula came from human researchers," the supplier explained. "We always bought it from human pharmaceutical companies, but those companies aren't selling anymore. They're not even responding to messages." The administrator checked his records. He felt his blood run cold. 70% of his medicines came from human sources. Antibiotics, pain relievers, cancer treatments, vaccines. All of it developed by human doctors and scientists. All of it shared freely with the galaxy for decades. All of it now unavailable. By day 12, 6 more hospitals reported the same problem. By day 14, it was 100. By the end of the second week, the Council's medical division was drowning in emergency requests. Drenth worked 18 hours a day trying to solve the crisis. She contacted pharmaceutical companies across the galaxy, begging them to reproduce human medicines. But the companies had a problem. "We don't know how to make them," one CEO explained. "Humans published the research papers, yes. But the actual manufacturing process, they never wrote that down. They just did it themselves and sold to us at cheap prices. We never bothered to learn." Drenth wanted to scream. "How is that possible? How did we let ourselves become so dependent?" The CEO's response was quiet. "Because it was easy. Because they never said no. Because they gave us everything we asked for and never demanded anything back." Drenth closed the communication channel and put her head in her hands. She was a doctor. She had spent 60 years saving lives, and now people were going to die because the humans were gone. The communication network started failing on day 16. It began with small glitches. Messages arrived late. Video calls dropped. Data transfers corrupted. The technicians tried to fix it, but the problems kept spreading. "It's the relay stations," a technician named Borak reported to the Council. 60% of them were maintained by humans. We're trying to access them now, but the systems are locked. And without the maintenance codes, we can't get in." "Can't you override them?" Vexitar asked. "Override human security systems?" Borak laughed bitterly. "Sir, humans built the best security in the galaxy. They helped design our military networks, our banking systems, our government databases. All of them have human security protocols, and now those humans are gone." Over the next few days, the communication problems got worse. Entire sectors lost contact with the Council. Trade negotiations failed because contracts couldn't be transmitted. Families on different worlds couldn't call each other. The galaxy's vast network of instant communication, built over centuries, was falling apart. And then someone discovered the AI problem. Every major government, company, and organization used artificial intelligence systems. They managed power grids, controlled ships, organized logistics, processed data. These AIs had been running smoothly for decades, until they started crashing. A banking AI on the financial worlds went offline, freezing billions of accounts. A traffic control AI on Council Prime malfunctioned, causing a collision between 2 cargo ships. A medical diagnosis AI started giving wrong results, nearly killing 3 patients. The pattern became clear. Human programmers had been maintaining these systems, writing patches, fixing bugs, updating security. They had done it quietly, without fuss, for years. Now they were gone, and the AIs were failing. "We took regular updates from human tech companies," explained an AI specialist named Soren. "Small patches, security fixes, optimization upgrades. We installed them automatically because they always worked perfectly. We never questioned it. We never learned how to maintain the systems ourselves." "Can we fix them?" Vexitar asked, though he already knew the answer. Soren looked exhausted. "We're trying, but human coding is incredibly complex. It will take us years to understand what they built, maybe decades. And in the meantime, our systems will keep failing. The economy was collapsing. Trade routes that humans had maintained for generations were dissolving. Human merchant ships had transported goods reliably and cheaply across the galaxy. Now those ships were gone, and prices were skyrocketing. Food became scarce on industrial worlds that couldn't grow their own. Ore shipments from mining colonies stopped arriving at factories. Luxury goods sat in warehouses because no one could afford to ship them. One delegate stood up in the council meeting and said what everyone was thinking. "We're falling apart. 2 weeks, just 2 weeks without humans, and we're falling apart." The pirate attack started on day 18. The Outer Rim had always had pirates, but human patrol fleets had kept them contained, responding quickly to distress calls, protecting merchant ships, guarding colony worlds. Those fleets were gone now, pulled back to Earth space. The pirates noticed immediately. Attacks increased by 400% in the first week. Merchant ships were raided. Colony worlds were threatened. Stations on the frontier sent desperate pleas for help. But the Council's own military was spread thin, dealing with the communication breakdowns and system failures. "Where are the human ships?" one colony governor begged. "They always came when we called. Where are they?" No one had an answer. Vextar attended another emergency meeting. Every department head reported the same story. Crisis after crisis, system after system failing. The galaxy was bleeding, and they had no way to stop it. "How did this happen?" Vexatar asked the room. "How did we not see this coming?" Drenth spoke up, her voice heavy with grief. "We saw what we wanted to see. Humans were helpful, generous, kind. We took everything they gave and never asked ourselves what would happen if they left. We thought they would always be here." A young analyst named Kyung stood up nervously. She had been reviewing human contributions for the past week, and what she found terrified her. "I have the numbers," Kyung said. She projected them on the main display. The room went silent as they read. Humans had mediated 90% of interspecies disputes over the past century. Most of them never even made it to the council floor. Humans had solved them quietly, fairly before they became wars. Humans had provided disaster relief to 62 worlds in the past 10 years alone. Earthquakes, floods, plagues, reactor meltdowns. Humans had arrived with supplies, expertise, and volunteers. They had asked for nothing in return. Humans had shared 147 major technological innovations freely with the galaxy. Fusion power, quantum computing, medical scanners, food synthesizers. Technologies that other species would have sold for fortunes. Humans had just published the research and let everyone use it. Humans had maintained the infrastructure that held the galaxy together. Communication relays, trade routes, patrol fleets, research stations. They had done it so efficiently, so quietly, that no one had noticed. "They were holding us together," Kyung said quietly. "And we never realized it." The room was silent for a long moment. Then someone asked the question that everyone feared. "Why did they leave? What did we do?" Vextar thought back over the past months. There had been tensions, yes. Some delegates complained that humans were too emotional, too unpredictable. Some worried that human influence was growing too strong. There had been discussions about placing limits on human participation in council affairs, but nothing serious, nothing that would cause this. Or so he had thought. A message arrived that evening. It was from a frontier medical station, one of the few places where humans had worked alongside alien doctors. The message was simple, but it hit like a physical blow. "Plague outbreak, 300 infected, no cure available. The cure was a human formula. We tried to contact Earth. They did not respond. People are dying. Please help us." Drenth read the message 3 times. She knew that plague. She had seen humans cure it easily, quickly, with a simple injection. The formula had been published in human medical journals 20 years ago. She tried to recreate it. She had the research paper. She had the chemical formulas. She had a fully equipped laboratory. She failed. The research paper described what the medicine did, but not exactly how to make it. There were gaps, assumptions that human chemists would understand, but she didn't. She tried for 6 hours before admitting defeat. 300 people were dying, and she couldn't save them. She sent a message to Earth, begging for help. She didn't care about pride anymore. She just wanted the medicine. Earth didn't respond. That night, Vexitar stood in his office and looked at the galaxy map. Red markers showed crisis points. There were hundreds of them, spreading like a disease. 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks. And the galaxy was breaking. He thought about Ambassador Minho, the quiet, patient man who had always been there when needed, who had solved problems before they became disasters, who had given and given and given, asking nothing back. Vexitar had taken him for granted. They all had. And now Minho was gone, along with every other human. Gone back to Earth, behind whatever defenses they had built. Gone from the galaxy they had helped hold together for 2 centuries. "What did we do?" Vexitar whispered to the empty room. "What did we do to deserve this?" The stars outside his window had no answer, and somewhere out there, 300 people were dying because the humans weren't there to save them anymore. The first cracks had appeared, and Vexitar knew, with growing horror, that this was only the beginning. 1 month had passed. The galaxy was drowning. 3 wars had started in the past 2 weeks. Small conflicts at first, border disputes that would have been solved by a human mediator in an afternoon. But without humans, the disputes escalated. Words became threats. Threats became violence. Violence became war. The council tried to mediate. They failed. None of them had the patience that humans possessed, the ability to listen to both sides for hours until a solution emerged. None of them had the neutral standing that humans commanded, trusted by all because they asked for so little. Ships burned in space, colonies were bombarded, millions of people became refugees, and the council could do nothing but watch. Food shortages spread across industrial worlds. The agricultural technology that fed billions came from human research. Advanced fertilizers, weather prediction, crop engineering, efficient farming machines, all of it developed by humans and shared freely. The galaxy had the research papers, they had the designs, but knowing something worked and actually making it work were very different things. Crops failed, shipments stopped, people went hungry. On Council Prime, Vexitar had aged 10 years in 1 month. He looked at reports of disasters spreading like fire across the galaxy and felt helpless. Every solution they tried failed. Every attempt to replace human systems fell short. "We need to understand why they left," he said during another emergency meeting. "We keep treating the symptoms, but we don't know the disease. What made them leave? What did we do?" A junior analyst named Mina spoke up. She had been reviewing council records for weeks, searching for the answer. "I think I found something. From 6 weeks ago, session number 4729. She pulled up the record. It was a closed session, one that only senior council members attended. Vexitar had been there, so had Drenth and 50 others. "What was discussed?" asked another counselor. Mina's voice was quiet. "Humans." The topic was humanity's status in the council. The room went silent. Vexitar felt his heart sink as the memory returned. Yes, there had been a special session. He remembered now. How had he forgotten? "Play it," Drenth said. Her voice was hollow. The recording started, the council chamber filled with voices from 6 weeks ago. Vexitar heard himself speaking, and shame burned through him. "We need to discuss the human problem," his recorded voice said. "Their influence has grown beyond acceptable limits. They control too much of our infrastructure. They are involved in too many critical systems. This creates a dangerous dependency. Other voices joined in. Humans are too emotional, too unpredictable. They let feelings guide their decisions. They are too quick to intervene, too eager to solve problems that are not theirs. Their psychology is different from ours. We cannot trust species who value emotion over logic. They are young, cosmically speaking. They have only been in space for 300 years. Perhaps they are not ready for equal standing with species who have traveled the stars for millennia. The recording continued. Proposal after proposal. Limit human access to council networks, restrict human participation in mediation, reduce human representation in committees, place humans under supervision, and then came the vote. I propose we reclassify humanity as a ward species, said Councillor Thex, a senior member from one of the oldest civilizations. This status will acknowledge their contributions while recognizing their limitations. They will remain members of the Council, but will not have full voting rights. They will be guided by more experienced species until they demonstrate sufficient maturity. Ward species. The term used for primitive civilizations that needed protection and guidance. Species that were not ready to govern themselves. The vote was called. 53 votes in favor, 12 against, 8 abstentions. The motion passed, and then came the part that made Vexatar want to die. The human delegation will be informed after the upcoming recess, Thex said, but not before. We don't want them to make a scene during council sessions. Send them a message that the next meeting is postponed. We will tell them about their new status at a quiet dinner privately where we can explain our reasoning. The recording ended. The council chamber was silent. Every member stared at the display, horror dawning on their faces. Mina spoke into the silence. The humans were never told about the postponement. Ambassador Minho came to the council building on the scheduled day. He came early, as he always did, and he found the chamber full. Meeting in session, discussing his people, voting to reduce their status to children who needed guidance. "Oh no," Drenth whispered. "Oh no." He watched from the observation gallery, Mina continued, pulling up security footage. He stood there for 47 minutes. He watched the entire debate. He heard every word. He saw the vote. And then he left. The screen showed Ambassador Minho in the gallery. His face was calm, but his hands gripped the railing tightly. He stood perfectly still as the council debated whether his species was mature enough for equality. When the vote finished, he turned and walked away. His footsteps echoed in the empty corridor. "That was the last time any human was seen in the council building," Mina said. 17 hours later, the first evacuation ships left human colonies. 3 days later, every human in the galaxy was heading home. Vexatar couldn't breathe. "We betrayed them. We took everything they gave us and we called them children." Another recording appeared on screen. This one was labeled Human Archives, Final Upload. It was a recorded message from someone named Tai Yang, a human engineer. Tai Yang sat in what looked like a simple office. He looked tired but calm. "This message is for anyone who wonders why we left. My name is Tai Yang. I maintained the Eastern Sector communication relays for 12 years. I'm going to explain something that you probably didn't know." He pulled up technical diagrams. "These relays are easy to run. The interfaces are simple. Any competent technician can monitor them. But what you don't see are the thousands of maintenance protocols running in the background. Security patches, efficiency updates, error corrections, traffic optimization. I wrote those protocols. Every morning I checked 200 systems. Every evening I fixed problems before they became critical." He smiled sadly. "You never noticed because I never let anything break. That was my job. That was every human's job. We fixed problems before you knew they existed. We gave you innovations before you knew you needed them. We did this because we believed in cooperation. We believed in friendship. We believed in building something better together." His smile faded. But you never saw us as partners. You saw us as convenient, useful, like tools that worked well and asked for nothing. And when you decided we were becoming too useful, too necessary, you didn't think to thank us. You thought to control us. Tae Yang stood up. So we're leaving. Not in anger, not in revenge. We're leaving because we finally understand. Respect cannot be demanded. It cannot be forced. Either you give it freely or it doesn't exist. You had 200 years to give it. You chose differently. He walked toward the camera. These are the maintenance protocols for the Eastern Sector. The access codes, the system architecture, the troubleshooting guides, everything you need. We're not sabotaging anything. We're just not fixing it anymore. Good luck. The recording ended. Another file opened automatically. This one was from Nari, a human xenobiologist. She sat in a laboratory surrounded by equipment and research papers. I've spent 30 years studying alien diseases, Nari said. I've published 462 papers. I've helped develop cures for 43 plagues. My work has saved approximately 17 million lives across 36 species. She held up a data pad. This is my final paper. It's titled In Gratitude and Farewell. It summarizes everything I've learned. It lists every species I've helped save. And it explains why I'm not publishing any more research. Her eyes were sad, but firm. Knowledge is a gift. For 30 years, I gave that gift freely. I shared every discovery, every breakthrough, every cure. I did this because I believed we were all working together to make life better for everyone. She set down the pad. But gifts only have meaning when they're appreciated. When you vote to treat the gift giver as a child who doesn't know better, who needs supervision, who isn't mature enough for respect, then the gift becomes something else. It becomes tribute, payment from the weak to the strong, and I will not participate in that relationship. Nari stood. My research belongs to humanity now. If you want it, you can negotiate for it, as equals. Or you can try to recreate it yourselves. I wish you well either way, but my days of freely giving are over. The recording ended. File after file opened. Hundreds of them, thousands. Every human who had worked for the council left a message. Doctors, engineers, teachers, mediators, soldiers, artists. All of them said the same thing in different ways. You took our gifts and called us children. You benefited from our work and decided we needed guidance. You had our friendship and chose control instead. So we're leaving. Drenth was crying. She didn't try to hide it. We had the galaxy's best doctors, the most creative engineers, the wisest mediators, the most generous partners, and we threw it all away because we were afraid of how much we needed them. Vextar looked around the room. Every face showed the same expression: horror, shame, understanding far too late. They gave us everything, he said quietly, and we decided it wasn't a gift. We decided it was proof they were beneath us, that only children give without taking, that maturity means keeping score. He pulled up one final file. It was labeled President Suji, Official Statement. The file was locked, password protected, but someone had already cracked it. The statement was short, just a few paragraphs, but every word burned. We came to the stars seeking friends. We found customers. We offered partnership. You preferred servants. We gave freely because we believed in community. You called it proof of our immaturity. Very well. We accept your assessment. We are too young, too emotional, too generous for galactic society. So we will return to our youth, our emotions, our generosity, and you can have the mature, logical, balanced galaxy you wanted. Good luck building it without us. The statement was scheduled to be released in 1 week, along with the final severing of all ties between Earth and the Galactic Council. Vexatar looked at the empty human seats, and for the first time, he understood. They weren't empty because humans were taken away. They were empty because humans had walked away, and they were never coming back. The vote was unanimous. Every single member of the Galactic Council voted yes. 53 who had voted to demote humanity, 12 who had voted against it, 8 who had abstained, and 42 more who hadn't been at that terrible session. All of them voted the same way. Send a delegation to Earth. Apologize. Bring the humans back. It wasn't kindness that drove the vote. It was desperation. 6 wars were burning across the galaxy. Plague had killed 4,000 people on the frontier worlds. Food riots had started on 3 industrial planets. The economy was in free fall. Communication networks failed daily. Medical supplies ran out faster than they could be replaced. The galaxy was dying without humanity. "We'll explain that it was a mistake," Counselor Thex said. He looked older than he had 6 weeks ago. "We'll apologize. We'll offer them anything they want, full council membership, seats on every committee, access to resources, whatever it takes." Drenth wanted to scream at him. This was the man who had proposed the Ward species classification. This was the man who had called humans too emotional to be equals. Now he talked about apologies and offers like they were simple trade goods. But she said nothing, because she had voted for it too. She had agreed that humans needed guidance. She had called them friends, then treated them like children. She had no right to judge anyone. The delegation left 3 days later. 20 ships carrying representatives from 20 different species. They brought gifts, rare minerals, advanced technology, artistic treasures. They prepared speeches. They practiced apologies. They convinced themselves that the humans would listen. They convinced themselves because the alternative was too terrible to consider. The journey to Earth took a week. The delegation talked constantly, planning their approach. What to say first? How to phrase the apology, which offers to make. They treated it like a negotiation because that was all they knew how to do. Vextar sat alone in his cabin and wondered if any of it would matter. When they reached Earth's solar system, everything changed. They were stopped at the heliopause, the boundary where the sun's influence ended. Stopped by something that hadn't existed 2 months ago. "Defense network detected," their pilot announced. "Automated, massive power signatures, weapons online." Vextar looked at the screen. A grid of satellites surrounded the entire solar system, thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands. They glowed with active energy shields and targeting systems. Between the satellites, massive stations hung in space, bristling with weapons. "When did they build this?" Thex asked in shock. "They didn't," said a military analyst on board. "They had it ready. They must have been preparing for years, maybe decades. They just never activated it until now." The implications hit Vextar like a physical blow. Humans had known. Somehow, they had known this would happen. They had prepared, quietly, secretly, without anyone noticing. While they smiled and helped and gave, they had also been building walls. Just in case. A transmission came through. Not audio, just text, cold and formal. "This is Earth Defense Network. You have entered human space. State your purpose or leave." Vexatar opened a channel. "This is Chancellor Vextar of the Galactic Council. We come in peace. We request permission to send a diplomatic delegation to Earth. We need to speak with your government." A pause, then another text message. "Stand by." They waited for 3 hours. The defense network didn't move, didn't power down, didn't give any indication whether their request would be granted. The delegation ships just sat there, surrounded by enough weapons to destroy them 1,000 times over. Finally, another message came. "You may transmit your message. You may not approach Earth. You may not enter the inner system. You have 1 hour. Not even a meeting, just a transmission. Speak your piece and leave." Vextar wanted to argue, wanted to demand a proper diplomatic reception, wanted to insist on the respect owed to the Galactic Council. But he had no right to demand anything, so he prepared his message. They broadcast from the lead ship. All 20 delegates appeared on screen together. They wore formal diplomatic attire. They tried to look dignified, respectful, apologetic. Vextar spoke first. People of Earth, government of humanity, we come to you in humility and regret. We have wronged you. We have betrayed your trust. We have taken your friendship and responded with insult. He detailed what happened: the secret session, the vote, the plan to reclassify humanity. He didn't make excuses. He didn't blame anyone else. He just stated the facts and admitted the fault. We were wrong, he said simply. We were blind, arrogant, and foolish. We saw your generosity as weakness. We saw your kindness as immaturity. We convinced ourselves that giving freely meant you were beneath us, when in truth it meant you were better than us. Other delegates spoke. They apologized. They begged. They offered everything they could think of: resources, technology, territory, positions of power, formal recognition as the galaxy's most valued members. Drenth spoke last. I am a doctor, she said, her voice breaking. I worked beside human doctors for 60 years. They taught me. They helped me. They saved lives with me. And I voted to call them children. I have no right to ask your forgiveness. But I ask anyway, not for myself, but for the millions of people who are suffering because you're gone. They didn't vote against you. They didn't betray you. But they're dying anyway. Please, come back. The transmission ended. They waited. 4 hours later, Earth responded. The screen activated. A woman appeared. She looked to be in her 50s with gray hair and tired eyes. She wore a simple suit with the emblem of Earth's government on her shoulder. I am President Suji, she said. Her voice was calm and cold. I will now deliver Earth's official response to the Galactic Council. Vextar held his breath. Your apology is noted, Suji said. Your regret is acknowledged. Your offers are declined. Humanity is formally and permanently withdrawing from the Galactic Council. This decision is final. Please, Vextar interrupted. Please. Just give us a chance to— Chancellor, Suji cut him off. Her eyes were hard. You will listen. We have given you enough. We have given you 200 years. We have given you our knowledge, our labor, our blood, our lives. We have given until you decided we gave too much, that our generosity made us weak, that our kindness made us children. We are done giving. She leaned forward slightly. Let me be very clear. Humanity is not angry. We are not seeking revenge. We are simply choosing to walk a different path. For 2 centuries, we tried to build something beautiful with you. A galaxy where species work together as equals, as friends, as partners. You showed us that you do not want that. You want servants who know their place, so we are removing ourselves from your service. We didn't mean— Thek started. Yes, you did, Suji said quietly. You meant every word. You believed every thought. And when you were caught, when we learned the truth, you didn't apologize because you understood your error. You apologized because you need what we provided. There's a difference. She stood up. Earth is revoking all previous agreements with the Galactic Council. All patents, all research, all technology previously shared freely is now the exclusive property of humanity. We will trade with independent colonies and neutral parties who treat us with respect. We will defend our borders and our allies. But we will not participate in galactic politics. We will not attend council sessions. We will not mediate your disputes. We will not solve your problems. The galaxy is dying without you, Drenth shouted. Then let it die, Suji said flatly. Or let it learn to live without us. We don't care which. That is no longer our concern. She picked up a data pad. This transmission will now be broadcast to every inhabited world in the galaxy. Not just the Council. Everyone. They deserve to know the truth. Suji looked directly into the camera. People of the galaxy, I am President Suji of Earth. I speak for all of humanity when I say this. We are leaving, not because of fear, not because of weakness, but because we finally understand that respect cannot be begged for. It must be freely given. or it has no value. For 200 years, humanity worked alongside you as partners. We shared everything we had. We shed our blood in your wars. We mourned your losses and celebrated your victories. We believed we were building something together, and then, in a single meeting, you decided we were not worthy of standing beside you. You decided our generosity made us inferior. You decided our kindness meant we needed to be controlled. Her voice grew harder. You were wrong. Our generosity was a choice, not a weakness. Our kindness was strength, not childishness. And our patience has limits. We are not coming back. We will not beg to be treated as equals. We will not argue for basic respect. We will simply leave you to the galaxy you wanted, a galaxy without human interference, a galaxy where emotional, immature, overly generous humans don't complicate your careful, logical, mature society. Suji set down the pad. Build that galaxy if you can. We hope you succeed, but build it without us. Humanity is going home, and the door is closing behind us. The transmission ended. Vextar stared at the blank screen. Around him, delegates sat in stunned silence. Somewhere, that message was being broadcast to trillions of people. Soon, everyone would know. Everyone would understand. The humans weren't negotiating. They weren't playing politics. They had made their choice, and nothing the Council could say would change it. Return to Council Prime, Vextar said quietly. His voice was hollow. There's nothing more we can do here. As they turned away from Earth's solar system, Vexatar looked back one last time. The defense network glowed in the darkness. Strong, impenetrable, final. The door had closed, and humanity stood on the other side, free and unreachable and done with them forever. The delegation flew home in silence, carrying the message that would break the galaxy's heart. The humans were gone. And they weren't coming back. 5 years had passed since the humans left. The galaxy had survived. Barely. The Galactic Council still existed, but it was a shadow of what it had been. 3 member species had left to form their own alliance. 7 more talked about leaving. The council meetings were tense, full of arguments that never reached solutions. Without human mediators, every dispute became a battle. Without human patience, every negotiation became a war of stubbornness. Wars still burned in the outer sectors. The fighting that started 2 months after the humans left had never stopped. Peace treaties failed. Ceasefires lasted weeks before breaking down. Millions had died. Billions had been displaced. No one could make the sides talk to each other the way humans had. No one had that gift. Medical technology had regressed. Diseases that had been cured decades ago were killing people again. Researchers tried to recreate human medicines, but they lacked the understanding. The research papers only told part of the story. The rest had been in the minds and hands of human doctors who were gone. Drenth had spent 5 years trying. She had devoted every waking hour to understanding human medical techniques. She had failed at almost everything she attempted. The few successes she managed were simple things that humans would have done in minutes. She was old now. Too old. Her time was running out. And she would die knowing she could never match what humans had given freely for 2 centuries. The economy had partially recovered, but it operated at maybe 60% of what it had been. Trade routes were less efficient. Shipping was more expensive. Innovation had slowed to a crawl. The galaxy had been standing on human shoulders without realizing it. Now that those shoulders were gone, everything was harder. Council Prime Station itself looked different. Sections that humans had maintained now showed decay. The gardens where human children had played were overgrown and dying. No one else knew how to care for Earth plants. The human quarter was sealed off, left exactly as humans had abandoned it, a memorial to what was lost. Vextar still served as Chancellor, though he didn't know why. He had submitted his resignation 4 times. Each time, the council voted to keep him. Maybe they thought he deserved the punishment of leading a broken galaxy. Maybe they just didn't care anymore. He looked older than he should. Stress had aged him rapidly. He spent his days managing crises that shouldn't exist, solving problems that humans would have prevented, watching the galaxy struggle with challenges that used to be simple. At night, he stood in the council chamber and looked at the human seats. They were still empty. No one had tried to fill them. They sat there like wounds that refused to heal. A young woman named Do-Yun walked through Council Prime Station on a cloudy afternoon. She was human, the first human visitor to the station in 5 years. She was 23 years old, born after the withdrawal. She had never seen the galaxy her parents and grandparents had helped build. She came for personal reasons. Her grandmother had died, and the funeral had been held on a colony world nearby. Do-Yun decided to stop at Council Prime on her way home, curious about the place she had heard so many stories about. She walked through the corridors and saw the decay, broken lights that no one had fixed, malfunctioning doors, dirty floors. The station was functional but neglected. It reminded her of old buildings on Earth that people had stopped caring for. A young alien approached her nervously. He looked to be in his 20s, around her age. "Excuse me, are you human?" Do-Yun nodded. "Yes, I'm Do-Yun." The alien's eyes went wide. "My name is Krell. I'm sorry to bother you, but I have to ask. Are humans coming back? Will they help us again?" Do-Yun looked at him. She saw hope in his face, desperate and painful. "I don't know," she said honestly. "That's not my decision. I wasn't even born when we left. But you must know something. Your government, your people. Do they talk about returning?" "Sometimes," Do-Hyun said carefully. "But mostly they talk about how happy we are now, how peaceful things are, how we don't miss the constant work, the endless requests for help, the expectation that we would solve everyone's problems." Krell's face fell. "So you won't come back?" "I didn't say that. I just said it's not my choice." Do-Hyun looked around the station. "Why do you want us back so badly?" "Because everything is falling apart," Krell said quietly. "I'm a technician. I try to maintain the station systems. But I don't understand half of what I'm doing. The systems were built with human help, designed with human logic, maintained by human engineers. I follow the procedures they left behind, but I don't really understand them. And when something goes wrong that's not in the manual, I can't fix it." He gestured around. "You see this decay? This is everywhere. On every station, every colony, every world. We're trying, but we don't know what we're doing. We need teachers. We need guides. We need humans." Do-Hyun felt sad for him. "I'm sorry. I really am. But my generation doesn't know how to teach you those things. We grew up on Earth, focusing on our own society. The knowledge exists, but the people who wanted to share it freely are gone, or too old now, and even if they weren't, I don't think they would." "Why not?" Krell's voice broke. "Don't they care that people are suffering?" "They care," Do-Yun said softly. "But they also remember being called children, being told they needed guidance, being classified as too immature for equality. That pain doesn't go away just because you need help." Krell slumped against a wall. "We were so stupid, so incredibly stupid." "Yes," Do-Yun agreed. "You were, but so was my grandparents' generation for giving without limit. They gave until you took them for granted. They gave until you thought you deserved everything they offered. Both sides made mistakes." She touched his shoulder gently. "Maybe in a few hundred years things will change. Maybe humans will feel differently. Maybe the Council will truly understand what it lost. But for now, you need to figure things out yourselves. That's the consequence of your choice." She left him there and continued walking through the station. She found the human quarter eventually. The doors were sealed but not locked. She opened them and walked through. It was like a time capsule. Homes left tidy and empty, shops closed but clean, schools with desks arranged neatly, waiting for students who would never return. Everything preserved exactly as it had been 5 years ago. In a small park at the center of the quarter, she found a memorial. It surprised her. She hadn't expected the council to build one. It was a simple stone wall with names carved into it, thousands of names. Every human who had died in service to the Galactic Council over 200 years. Soldiers, diplomats, doctors, engineers, teachers, aid workers. All of them listed carefully, respectfully. At the bottom, an inscription in dozens of languages. They came in friendship. They gave freely. They asked only for respect. We gave them betrayal. Let this stand as a reminder. Trust, once broken, cannot be commanded to return. It must be earned, and some opportunities come only once. Do-Yun read it 3 times. She felt tears on her face. These were her people. These names represented 2 centuries of humans who had believed in something beautiful, who had tried to build something better, who had given everything and asked for so little, and who had been told they weren't good enough. She heard footsteps behind her. 3 elderly aliens stood there. She recognized one from history lessons, Chancellor Vextar. The others were introduced as Drenth and Thex. "You're Do-Hyun," Vextar said. It wasn't a question. "Your grandmother was Jisoo, the trade liaison. She was one of the last to leave." Do-Hyun nodded. "Yes, she died last week. That's why I'm here." "I'm sorry for your loss," Vextar said. "She was a good person, a kind person." "I didn't appreciate her enough." They stood together in silence, looking at the memorial. "Do you hate us?" Drenth asked quietly. Do-Hyun thought about it. "No, I don't hate you. I pity you. You had something special and you threw it away. Now you live with the consequences. That's not hate, that's just sadness." "Will humans ever return?" Thex asked. The old counselor looked broken. "I don't know," Do-Hyun said. "Ask me again in a century, or 2, or 10. Maybe someday the pain will fade enough. Maybe someday humans will be willing to trust the galaxy again. But not today. Not for a long, long time." She turned to leave, then stopped. "Can I tell you something? My grandmother talked about you sometimes, about the council, about her work here. She said it was the best time of her life. She loved what she did. She loved the people she worked with, and that made the betrayal hurt even more. She cried when she packed her office. She cried on the ship home. She cried for weeks. Not because she was angry, because she was heartbroken. You didn't just lose her work, you lost her love. You lost what 200 years of humans freely gave because they believed in you, and you can't buy that back. You can't negotiate for it. It's just gone." Do-Hyun walked away, leaving the 3 old counselors standing by the memorial. On Earth, President Suji sat in a garden with her grandchildren. She was retired now, but people still called her president. She didn't mind. "Grandmother," asked a small girl named Bora, "will we ever go back to the stars, like great-great-grandmother did?" Suji smiled. She remembered her own grandmother, Ambassador Minho. He had lived 10 more years after returning to Earth, long enough to see humanity thrive in isolation, long enough to see his great-granddaughter elected president. "Perhaps," Suji said, "someday, when we're ready, when they're ready, when enough time has passed that both sides have learned their lessons." "What lessons?" Bora asked. "We learned that kindness without boundaries is taken for granted. They learned that taking kindness for granted has consequences, both important lessons, but painful ones." She looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, the galaxy continued without them, struggling, suffering, learning slowly what they had lost. "Will it be soon?" Bora asked. "No, little one, not soon. Maybe in your lifetime, maybe in your children's lifetime, maybe never. But we're happy here. We're safe. We're respected. And that matters more than anything else. Bora seemed satisfied with that answer. She ran off to play with her siblings. Suji watched them go. Young humans who had never known aliens, never worked beside other species, never experienced the joy of galactic cooperation, but also young humans who would never know betrayal, never feel the sting of being called inferior, never give their hearts to people who saw them as servants. Was it worth it? She didn't know. But the choice had been made, and humanity would live with it, just as the galaxy would live with theirs. Above Earth, the defense network hummed quietly, keeping watch, keeping the door closed, waiting for a day that might never come, when trust could be rebuilt and bridges could be crossed again. But for now, the galaxy belonged to those who had broken it. And humanity watched from behind closed doors, safe and separate and done with trying to fix what others had destroyed. The stars still shone, but they shone on a darker galaxy, one that had learned too late the value of what it had lost.